The newest addition to Guilty Gear Strive is A.B.A, making her first appearance to Guilty Gear since XX. So in this video, we are going to talk about what type of character she is, her strengths, her weaknesses. We're going to look at her normals and special moves, and we're going to take a look at her base game plan. So this guide is not just for beginners, but people are looking to pick up the character. I'm learning too. It's also pretty early. So this is all the info I've got in, and I've been trying to apply myself since starting to play her when she came out 2 days ago now, Tuesday. So first off, we have to look at what type of character A.B.A is. So A.B.A is a mode change character. So this means that she switches between 2 modes, or stances if you're a stickler, with different movesets. In her normal mode, she's extremely slow and not very threatening, at least not in a direct way. But in jealousy mode, can I call it Yandere mode actually? Let me know in the comment section. She is much faster, with better buttons, mix-ups, and combos. In her case, I think her long-term goal, and this is definitely emphasis on long-term goal, is to try to stay in the Yandere mode as much as possible. Alright, that's probably the last time I'll call it that this video. So, what is good about this character? So one, her damage is high. This was a pretty simple combo example, and definitely not optimal, and it still did a ton of damage. Not to mention that Soul actually has pretty good HP. Her normals overall in both modes I find to be pretty strong. In normal mode, she's able to control space despite not being very mobile, and has some low total duration moves at advance. And in jealousy mode, she has a lot of powerful moves with low recovery. At her best, she has really good movement as well. So in jealousy mode, she is very fast like Chip, has a ridiculously strong backdash, a great dash jump, and also she doesn't go that high. On top of buffs to her movement special moves. In normal mode, her movement itself is bad, but she's able to travel, which is also nice. So between this special move sliding and her kick actually being much farther in normal mode, on top of a funny little trick we'll talk later involving her dash, even though she is not like super fast like Million or Chip, she's able to move around the screen in a unique way. I find her offense to also be overall pretty strong. So in jealousy mode, she just has a lot of options. She has a lot of mix-up options like her overhead kick and many lows available. And she has a bunch of moves that have advantage like her key grab or Danzai, in addition to standard things in the game like close slash. Another thing that's pretty valuable is her conversion ability. So she's able to convert hits into knockdowns pretty reliably. This one's pretty important, not only in the game in general, but my main Baiken is not the best at converting, so this one is a pretty big deal, especially since she herself is not that mobile. So in general, you should be able to convert your hits into knockdowns or advantageous situations. In normal mode, you do need to be a little bit aware of distance. But generally in this mode, the world is really yours. And then finally, she's pretty tanky. So I made up a Build-A-Bear Soul combo like I tend to do for these videos. And she has both above average defensive modifier and also average guts. So she's actually quite tanky. So you are able to make mistakes or take risks with the character. So next we will discuss her weaknesses. So the first and most obvious one is that her strength is tied to a resource, which is definitely a big deal. So while her normal mode does have a couple of things that she could use to accommodate for the fact that she's not very mobile, when you don't have resource, it really is suffering because pretty much you have to make contact with the opponent or absorb something that the opponent does in order to build resource. 2, and this one's pretty obvious, she's just really slow in normal mode. All the characters in this game have weaknesses, but usually the characters that are not mobile have stuff that's pretty good at full screen. So for example, a character like Potemkin has Slide Head and Mega Fist. So even if you're waiting from full screen, he can at least build meter by doing Slide Head, where A.B.A has no such tool. At least not meterless. Then non-structured play. Non-structured play means that she's actually pretty difficult to pick up and not so easy to execute well if you've never played a resource character like this. We make jokes about resource characters in these games because there's characters like Nago and HC, but even the characters like that, like A.B.A Chaos has a resource super to help him manage stuff. And if you've ever played like a brand new Nago player, you'll actually see them make resource mistakes all the time. And Nago specifically is supposed to be a relatively easy resource character for like an anime game. So since she has big flaws in normal mode, it's really hard to freestyle. Like I've seen it from playing people in the tower. Like if they're not like a competitive player, I've seen them just make massive mistakes that cost them rounds. Of course, it's early, but a combination of assessing the situation plus resource, and like it really matters and you don't have like a big out like some characters do. So for example, Asuka can use his HP in case he really fumbles in case of mana. Definitely does not make this character a pick up and play character. Then camping. Because of her not being very mobile, she's just not good at people just waiting. So there's some characters that don't do well when they wait, but there's some characters that do very well when they sit around and wait, like Axel. So she's pretty weak against this. Thankfully, we play Guilty Gear Strive, and you can't just straight up run away or else you'll get negative penalty, and negative penalty is pretty bad in the current version. It's still something that she really struggles with. Then bursting. So if you do not burst well with this character, it is very bad news. Here's a pretty simple example. What do you do now? So she doesn't have like something like focus that Happy Chaos has, where she could build meter from here, and you can't switch into jealousy mode unless you have 25 meter. So this type of burst is really suffering. You're basically bursting and you just can't do that much because they're full screen. And these 2 points kind of tie us to the last point, which the main way she builds meter is by making contact with the opponent. So by using moves that use the key, or just straight up getting a combo, you can build resource, but you can't really do this at full screen. So while you can transform anywhere on screen if you have the resource available, above 25, you can't build it from everywhere, which is a very important point to consider while building your matchup strategy. So with her strengths and weaknesses out of the way, let's look at her normals, supers, and special moves. So her punches and kicks are pretty much the same in both modes, so we're going to go through those first, and then we'll look at moves that are uniquely in normal mode and uniquely in jealousy mode before we go on to special moves. So first we have her 5P. It's actually pretty typical 5P in this game. Soul has it as well. People generally use these as like reactionary anti-airs with lower commit. So since the typical anti-air is 6P, you can see that she kind of just stuck there for a little while longer. 5P just has way less recovery. Then we have 2P. So 2P is actually a really important defensive button more than anything else, since this move is 4 frames, and to punish things that some people can't punish normally. So as an example, if I use something like my 5P, no shot, but if I use my 2P, I'm able to get either a key grab or a knockdown using Horeka. 6P, which we mentioned, is your typical anti-air in Guilty Gear. So her 5K is a very active kick that's jump cancelable and has low options, so you can use it both in neutral, even though I don't use it that much in normal mode, but in jealousy mode you can use it for offense because you can go straight into overhead or you can go into low. We'll talk about this more a little bit later. Now her 2K is of note because it is bigger than her 5K, and it's a low, and it's quite fast, and it's really active, and it combos into stuff. But like we mentioned with the punches, you want to make sure that you pay attention to the range. As a quick note too, we're gonna look at her dust, because her dust is the same in both modes, but her dust is not really that great, and she has better mix-up options than dust, and it doesn't have a lot of range either. So it's not really worth mentioning outside of like a mental stack stuff. But this is not a move you're going to be using very often. JP is a typical mashy horizontal air versus air. You're mostly using this as a reactionary air versus air in normal mode and as a chase in jealousy mode. I mean, of course, in jealousy mode, you can use it as a reaction air versus air as well. The important thing to note, though, is that since your dash jump is just better, it is much easier to chase people airborne with this because of how far you go compared to normal mode where you don't really go anywhere. Then we have jump kick. I'm going to keep it real. I don't know what this move's for. I don't really use this very much in neutral really at all, and I don't really use it in a combo at the moment. So, not going to lie, don't have a use case for it. I'm sorry. So with those moves out the way, we're going to look at normal mode specific moves. So first, we have to talk about bar slash. This move is actually quite good, and this move actually was the first attack where I was like, I think I'm looking at this mode the wrong way. So what is good about this move? The main two things is that it advances forward significantly, and this can be augmented by dashing. So we could do a fun little test of how many far slashes will it take for me to get to Giovanna versus how many will it take with a dash. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Verse 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, so it advances quite a bit. And if you didn't notice, it has like no recovery, so it does actually have recovery. The main thing is that it has a low total duration. So at 26 frames, it is 2 frames slower than Soul's / total duration. And if you play this game for a while, you know that you kind of have to be eyes wide open, locked in, ready to whip punish Soul doing this. So this is the same type of move. It is not disjointed, but I think it serves an important purpose for the character. Then you have 2S. So this move is best for moves that go over her for some reason or cross-ups. So Geo here, typically, you know, she crosses up with this flip kick, but with 2S on reaction, we can easily hit this into a combo. But then also, Geo has a cross-up JK. So in spots like these, you can also use the 2S to get a counter hit and go into a nice combo. The best part about having a 2S anti-air, you know, a lot of characters have 2S lows like Geo. But what's really good about having a 2S anti-air is that you could be crouching and just press it. So then we have GS. So to be quite honest, I don't think there's anything really notable about this move besides it is the jump in for normal mode, because jump heavy is just so much slower that it's not really a good option on IAD. So it's like jump S normally, and this is like jump H. Like you can't even super jump. You have to like jump kind of high and then do it, but then like the jump H kind of swings up. Jump H is a really weird move that's, as far as I know at the moment, pretty niche. But the main thing I found is that you can use it as an air because it's just bigger than jump S. JH at the moment I have very little use for, but outside of like a really specific safe jump in the corner off throw. Then JD. So you have JD the dive. So this move has a little bit of landing recovery. The main thing is that she goes straight down, which, okay, that sounds pretty silly. But since she has this air dash, it doesn't go that far. And the JS does cross up, which is a nice actual other thing about this move. The thing about JD is that you instantly stop where you were going to go. So this move both alters your air momentum and it can bait anti-airs when used well. So it's actually a pretty important jumping move. Then we have 5H. This is your big poke. This move hits from round start, single backdash, still reaches. And it's 15 frames on top of that. So it's a pretty fast move. It does advance a little bit, but not as much as /. While the frame data is not that great, it does have a lot of block stun, and it pushes back a ton. This thing I kind of like. It might sound like not a good thing that like the characters that's not mobile pushes you really far away, but this makes it so that she has a answer in normal mode to dash block and doesn't require the opponent to get like way in your face. But then also you can choose to re-engage on your own terms, which is pretty nice. And you have 2H. So this is mostly a combo tool, but on offense, the nice thing about this move is that you can cancel the first hit. It has a little less block stun than the typical heavy button, so keep that in mind when you're building your offense. So then you have your 6H. So I had to see what people use this for, and pretty much it has a decent amount of pushback, but for the most part, I've only seen this really used in combos because it does also end your Gatlings immediately. Then we have 2D. So the biggest thing about 2D that you need to know, outside of it being a low, is that when you do 2K 2D or 5K 2D, there is a chance that you will miss. And from my testing, it is really rare for 2D to whiff off 5K, like if you're using it in neutral normally, but it is very realistic for your 2D to whiff off 2K, which is bigger than 5K. Next, let's look at Jealousy mode. So first we have /. So this move is 1 frame faster than the normal mode /. So in normal mode it's 10 frames, but in Jealousy mode it's 9 frames, which makes it like the fastest speed. But then also this move is just incredibly disjointed. Like you just really cannot fight this move like at all. So it has a touch more recovery than the normal mode version, but since it has 1 less frame startup, it's only like 1 frame slower, so it is still incredibly hard to whip punish this move, and then also she's way faster. So next is her 2S. So it's like her old 2S, but it's like her old 2S from Accent Core, but the angle is a little bit different. So what I mean is, we're gonna have Geo here again. So 2S is really hard to use against her normal mode because 2S basically just hits in front. So no matter what I do, my 2S is not going to work. I basically have to 6P, which is fine. Now in Jealousy mode though, It is trivial to hit this because it hits more forward. Then you get the benefit of still hitting cross-ups. So all around a really good move. Then you have her 5H. So this move is really crazy. So it is smaller than her normal mode 5H. However, it has way less recovery. And it's just super active. And it's -5 on block. It is super safe on block. So it's just a really good move. I don't really know what to say about this move. I just think it's really amazing. It's way faster than in normal mode as well. It's just really maybe one of the best heavy buttons in the whole game. I don't know. Then you have 2H. There's a couple important things about this move. So it's actually a little bit slower than in normal mode. And it doesn't advance as much. But it's a 2-hitting low. So it enhances her offense. On top of that, it also has additional block stun, the heavy block stun that you'd expect from a heavy button. There's 6H. So this move is actually pretty similar to her normal 6H, at least at the moment. The main thing is that it's just bigger. However, you have other options that are far bigger, like 5H and far slash. So I don't know how useful this move is outside of like maybe like a structured offense and combos, because it is her most damaging normal. So then we have JS. So people don't describe it as a cross-up normal. It's not like super easy to cross up with really, but it's still like one of your main jump-ins. But I actually find that it's a much better air versus air since there's a disjoint in front of the move. Your main jump in is actually going to be jump H now because it launches on hit. It's a trivial cross-up, and as you can tell since I'm doing it from an air dash, it is far faster than her normal mode version. Then you have JD. While I think this might have some air versus air usage, you're probably going to be using JS anyway. So the main thing you're going to see this used is for combos because it has a very significant wall bounce. Next, we're going to go through her special moves. First is key grab. This is a quarter circle back H to wood 4H. So this move is going to be your main way of going in and out of jealousy mode. The biggest thing is that this move is very fast. The way you see this is that Geo is set to only block one attack unless it's totally airtight. And her sweep into this is airtight, and it's actually a +2 guard crush. So these things combined with it building jealousy meter make this move a really important move in normal mode. As a side note, it does still have the same data in jealousy mode, but you don't build meter back by using it. So then we have the mode change. This is 624P for short, so it's going to be a half circle back and punch. The main thing about this is that this is a move you can use to change at any time, back and forth. When you are exiting jealousy mode, you actually get back half the meter that you used at that time. Let's say for some reason you're like full screen and running out. If the opponent can't get to you, it's not a bad idea to just switch, especially since you need 25% of the gauge in order to use this move in the first place. So this situation I have here is a pretty rare one where you don't actually get the 25 and you have to like find a way to make them block. A final thing to keep in mind about this move is that if you're going to run out of jealousy, it's still worth doing this move anyway because you won't be forced out of it until you go back to neutral. So as an example, here I'm just going to let it run out a little bit. Okay, see? Now here I'm going to let it get kind of close, and then I'm going to do like this into nothing, and I'm forced out, right? So for this last one, I'm going to do like a slow lock string to let it run out, and then switch. So this thing might look a little bit weird, but the main point is that you get the meter back if you exit, which is pretty important for not getting locked out of your game. So then we have a slide. So the slide is actually pretty fast. It's 26 frames total. So lines up with this. Also advances. And you can use it to beat things that 6P would beat. But this actually has like really crazy low profile. So that's a pretty good example. There's some characters who have low profile moves that don't go under this move. So that's a pretty good sign of she really gets down there. In jealousy mode, it goes way further. Then you have 236K. So 236K is really good in both modes. You know the move is good because it has tilt in its name. It's intertwine and tilt, and you will make people tilt by using this move. So in both modes, it's pretty fast. So in the normal mode, it's 17. And in the jealousy mode, it is 18. And then they're both really safe. In normal mode, it's -1. And jealousy mode is -2, which does make it vulnerable to throws. But with good positioning, you can be outside of throw range, so it's fine. But safety and speed are pretty much where the similarities end, because these two moves have really different use cases. So in normal mode, you're using this both in neutral, because it's almost as big as our 5H. So let's say 5H, a single backdash into 5H. At round start, you'll connect, but your 236K will whiff. Small little side note, if you use the dash button and use 236-K, you will actually go as far, which is great. But then you can also use it for pressure as well. How you'll use this in pressure will be a little bit character specific. So Leo's a pretty good example because his fastest button is his 5P. And while his 5P is great and hits crouchers, it's not huge. So for example, by doing the 2P here, I go under his 5P before he can hit me. Even though we should be hitting at the same time, I'm hitting at a different spot. Little known fact, but his 2P is actually 6 frames. So at -1 with my 4 frame 2P, I'm able to easily beat his 2P, forcing him to pick different, more riskier options if he wants to reverse the situation. Now, the clear thing about jealousy mode is that it is your overhead option and it's pretty much unseeable at 18 frames. Typically in anime games, we use 18 frames as like invisible on startup. So her having that as an overhead that is also safe and also launches is pretty crazy. Then we have Hireka. So she has these in both modes. It's an advancing mid into a fast low. And in both modes, they lead to a hard knockdown. They're also whiff cancelable. In normal mode, her 236S is -5, which is pretty good frame data. But it's not really special besides that. The main use case would be in the case that you can't do something like 236K, or you're like too far to use your key grab. You can use this and you have a nice safe ender for that. So it's just an option that has slightly more range. In jealousy, this is actually -2, so it's actually a pretty crazy mid-range jump scare that's fast. The low is actually the same in both modes, like same speed and everything. The main thing is what do you do after. So when you hit it in normal mode, you actually get a ton of jealousy gauge, again similar to key grab, but in jealous mode you don't. Instead, you get more advantage for Oki. The way I like to think about the second reco for jealousy mode is that if I don't know how to like take someone to the corner, I'll basically use that to just get a hard knockdown and continue my offense that way. A big thing to keep in mind is that actually this move uses like no time at all in comparison to a move we'll be talking about in a little bit, because this is actually a pretty important thing about menacing jealousy. So then we have to talk about the parry. So despite everyone calling this a parry, it is not actually a reversal. So easy way to tell, Leo has a gap between his 2K to 6K. If you try to parry, you get smoked. It does not activate on frame 1. It does not activate on frame 3. It actually activates on frame 7. So you're not using this to like turn around defensive situations. Really the main point of this parry is to prevent her from being zoned easily. You get about like 25% jealousy gauge, and while you're recovering, you're invincible. And you can PRC. I think there's a lot of room for experimentation with this move, but at the moment, I've basically been using it against zoners or like things that people do from full screen that I think are pretty easy to react to because they travel across the screen. As a final note, you can't use this in jealousy mode. And our last special move is good old Danzai. So this move is really powerful, but we actually have a bit to talk about with this. And we're definitely using the boomer name. This move is +4 on block, both hits guard crush, and it has a great guard point that if they do DPRC and use Danzai against it, they will not be able to RC their DP. It's actually really, really good. The only thing I have found so far that beats this is parries, so like Baiken's parry and Anji's parry. You're using this move in combos, it does everything. So the two biggest problems with this move is one, if you whiff it, you are a sitting duck unless you have resource to PRC it. And two, it uses a ton of jealousy gauge. So I'm actually gonna hold up here, and I use about like 20-ish%. When I'm resetting here, I'm starting at half my gauge. So you're using a good chunk of your jealousy gauge to not like guarantee offense. So this move is definitely more of a call out move than anything else. It is a very powerful move, don't get me wrong, but keep in mind that it is a call out move. The other thing too is that, similar to before, it is not a reversal. So next we're going to look at super. So she has two. So first you have her invincible reversal, and the data is same in both modes. So to get this out of the way too, the big major flaw of this move is that it's not a 9-frame super, unfortunately, and she definitely could have used it. It is a 10-frame super. This does mean you have access to an advanced technique with it, where you PRC the startup, but it's not easy without like a RC button. And it would be nice for this to be 9 frames because of what it does. So if you're in normal mode, you'll switch to jealousy mode right away. But if you're in jealousy mode, you'll switch to normal mode as well, but there'll be an additional animation. When you do it in normal mode, you actually build jealousy meter on hit and on block. And when you do it in jealousy mode, you will actually burn your entire jealousy bar, whatever is left, for additional damage, making it a good way to kill, especially on the wall. So with that in mind, the normal mode version is actually pretty good because you can reverse the situation and get into jealousy mode immediately, and you can meaty off it, which is really powerful because she's so fast in jealousy mode. But if you use this in jealousy mode and it doesn't kill, you are in a really, really dire situation, because at least for the moment, I don't really know how you get over there and you burn your whole meter and she can't build any resource full screen. Another small thing to keep in mind, this super actually hits on both sides. So then you have the kick super. This one's also available in both modes. So normally you just do this and you have a small amount of frame advantage. So this was one of the main tracking moves that you have, and even moves that travel quickly are pretty vulnerable to this. They really made sure that it would be really hard to outrun this. The jealousy mode one is standout though. So you get additional hits and frame data. But the thing is, while you have a little bit of advantage here that you can't really do much with, in jealousy mode it is trivial to just literally run over and continue your offense. So you can look at it like this. The heavy super is better in normal mode and it's your main reversal. The jealousy version is good, but it's basically something you use to add damage. Then the kick super is far better in jealousy mode than normal mode, but you have an emergency anti-zoning tool from full screen in normal mode to use. Another small side note, because I know someone's going to say this in the comments, the kick super in jealousy mode does have combo application that seems to be very damaging. However, I have only been playing for it for 2 days, so I have not learned how to do this, nor do I know if it's as practical as like the funny gun combo, for example. So with that, we're going to briefly look at her game plan. I'm actually structuring this a little bit differently than normal. Normally I'd actually put like just combos here, but she is not a normal character, so I do actually want to talk about her game plan and then give you some very simple combos to start with, because I don't really know how people are going to route stuff, and I think that routing thing is actually really going to matter. To the people who watch you play characters like Nago, like HC, like Zato, if you want to flame people in the comments about resource management, now is your time to shine. So first, buttons to press in normal modes. So of course it's going to be // and 5H. 5H is just huge, so they have to already be kind of moving or waiting for you to do it to punish you. And because it's so big, you can like try to pull up in that space. You also have the ability to kick. Again, it's not as big as 5H, but not only can you use 236 dash plus kick to go a little bit further, but also when you miss, if they're going over you, in the case of 5H, I am a sitting duck, but in the case of 236K, I am in a different position, so I might actually get out, especially if my opponent did not use a cross-up move. Slide is also an option in that it is the same total duration as /. In the case they're using like 6Ps to beat your /, you can simply slide under. Side note, but Leo 6P is pretty broken. A normal 6P would definitely have got hit by that 2K, but I digress. Then last thing you can really do is you can dash block. Dash blocking is really good, and unlike poor Jonathan's Fondy, she does have the ability to do it. She does also have a unique trick that other characters do not seem to have. So if you press dash and hold the dash button, she will just automatically dash. So you could actually hold down back while doing this. She's not like especially fast or anything, so I don't feel like it's really broken. But if someone is literally sitting here and doing nothing and waiting for you to see what you do, at the bare minimum you could build a little meter and positive by just approaching them and running into their probably minus buttons. Your goal here is to try to land a hit into key grab or Rekka knockdown. Remember that the key grab has less range than the Rekka. It is very, very important that you remember that, actually, because whiffing this could lose you a game. If you can't get a clean hit, you have two ways of approaching things. You can try to build a little jealousy meter by making them block moves that build jealousy meter. So anything that hits with the key and special moves. As an easy roll, on block, you're building half as much jealousy meter as you would on hit. What do you do against zoning? So if you think you can react, try to parry. Parry basically means, especially like if you do this early in the round, you'll have a ton of jealousy meter to play with. If you don't think you can react, you kind of have to guess with it, and this is punishable, so be careful. You can also, of course, use the dash block trick you just learned. Finally, if you really don't know what to do, you can just transform and send it. The transformation is pretty fast, and she covers a lot of range really quickly, so keep that in mind. Next, what do you do in jealousy mode? Honestly, you run it. You run it. She's super fast. She does a lot of damage, and she has good mix-ups. Her 236k is an overhead, so it's really easy to open people up with her. And everything is huge and disjointed and leads into combos. The only additional thing I'll mention for jealousy mode is really keep track of the time. So she starts at 50%, so I timed it on stream, and I had the feeling that like each 10% is about a second. So remember what we said about Danzai, that some actions take more time from your jealousy meter. So it's not like using it directly costs your jealousy meter, but it's draining, so you can look at it like that. With that in mind, when they're blocking stuff or getting hit by stuff, you're not actually losing meter during this time. Even Danzai. What it mostly happens at Danzai is during the move and after the move is over, right? So outside of Danzai, there's another important one. It's her throw. So when she throws you, it's a lot of hits. It's 19 hits. So it builds a lot of bursts, and it uses a ton of jealousy time. So keep this in mind when you're running your offense. When you're talking about mix-ups in jealousy mode, for your lows, 2H is slower than 2D. So 2H will actually line up a little bit better with her overhead than 2D. If you're going to use 2D, you're going to have to delay it some. So you'll have to practice that. And to top it off, some simple combos. So off a lot of her lights in general, you can do button to key grab or buttons to Rekka, with up punches and kicks. It's going to be range based if you want to use the key grab. So keep that in mind. Her combo ability seems to be kind of limited in normal mode. If you hit something like a 2S counter hit, you have that pretty simple conversion of close slash dash close slash into key grab. But I don't really know how people are pushing this besides Wild Assault, and I haven't super explored how to use Wild Assault with her in combos that much. So honestly, your main things you're trying to do is use Rekka and key grab so you can get jealousy gauge. Now, for jealousy mode, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. So for starters, if you hit far slash into 2H, you can actually combo into 2K, into close slash, into a corner carry combo. It's pretty valuable because it's off her really good far slash. The other nice thing is that you get a lot of control on the wall here. We will talk about what you do on the wall in a little bit. Another option is when you don't know what to do, you simply go into Danzai. You have all day to combo out of it. When you don't know what to do in the jealousy mode or you're running out of time, it's perfectly fine to just go straight into the Rekka. Again, the previous example, compared to this, notice how like I have like maybe 30 to 40. Basically, if you want to use Danzai, I think you need to be aiming for a combo that breaks the wall. You can't like mess around really and use Danzai for Oki unless you have a lot of resource available. And then last, we're going to talk about the wall. So there's a couple of things that could happen at the wall. So one, you have one of these. So I don't have a lot of resource, and if I use my H super, then I'm going to go into jealousy with no resource. So the way we fix this is you actually switch on the wall stick. And then key grab here. So both switching back gives you half the jealousy gauge you used, and then you're going to break the wall key grab, which gives you another big chunk of jealousy gauge. If you want to use meter for a hard knockdown, it would be the same type of idea. The only difference would be that you do super instead of doing a key grab. If for some reason you want to break the wall and keep your meter, or if you're just like really running low on resource, you have the option to do like a double key grab combo. And the main thing is that the key grab just does a lot of wall damage. And also from here, you have your set of options to choose from. What I mean is, you can super here, no problem. You can do another key grab here, no problem. But yeah, that's pretty much an intro to early A.B.A. If you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you feel like it. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.